5 minutes past 10. Talkback lawyer David Whiting is here to take your calls. 1300 222 774 is the number. 1300 222 774. And David, good morning to you.
Good morning, John.
Bit of homework, bit of news.
No, homework free.
Oh, are we?
Yes.
Oh, goodness.
Had to sleep in.
Legal system. The Chief Judge of the County Court's just been here this morning, and we've been talking about mandatory sentencing or whether or not judicial discretion should be taken away when judges don't do what Parliament and the community seem to want. And His Honour Peter Kidd from the County Court got well and truly fired up, which was good to see that judges are engaging in the public debate about the attacks on their court. So, yeah, he said he thought some of the media commentary on Barbara Cottrell's decision on the ambulances cases last week was misdirected and even cruel. If people have a worry about the way the court works, then they should have looked at the fact that it was Parliament that gave them those powers, and they should direct their inquiries to Parliament, not the judges.
Well, before coming in today, I actually read the judgment. It's available on the County Court website. And the conclusion I reached at the end of the judgment was, I don't know that locking these people up is going to achieve a thing.
Because?
Well, basically because they seem to be at a point where they've had truly horrible lives to date. They appear to be at their point where they're able to do something about it. And I don't know that taking them out of the community is going to help. And I was also listening to Raf last night, and he got a call in from a psychiatrist who basically says people with drug issues don't get treated in prison.
No, there's next to nothing.
Yep.
And people, something like 80% or more of people in prison have a mental illness. And it's the worst place for them to be because there's next to no assistance. So, but this is the law and order agenda of both parties at the moment as we head to a state election, where being, quote, tough on crime, close quote, whatever that means, is thought to be the way to win votes. Mm. We're not alone in dealing with this.
No, I think everybody has similar issues. Craig Minogue last Tuesday made an application to the High Court. Man
convicted of the Russell Street bombing.
Yes, he was. Legislation was introduced as he became eligible for parole, and it was in support of a government policy that says people who are convicted cop killers never get parole. And so there's an argument currently running in the High Court. What I found interesting was that...
the argument is that it's unconstitutional to retrospectively sentence someone. The Parliament can't sentence a prisoner, only a court can, and it's contrary to Victoria's own Human Rights Charter.
Yes, and so there was an argument that, in fact, Human Rights Charter is really no more than a piece of legislation, and you don't need to take account of it if you choose not to. Mm-hmm. So that's out there. It will be interesting to see what they make of that.
All right. Other things?
I had a couple, John. Law Week last week.
A great success, I'm told.
Yes. Well,
huge numbers turning up to events.
Fiona Macleay, the Legal Services Commissioner, says that statistically only 16% of Australians with legal problems sought advice from lawyers.
Say that again.
16% of people with legal problems sought advice from lawyers.
Oh, okay.
A third dealt with their legal problems without taking any advice. Another 16% didn't do anything. And the rest got help from non-legal advisors such as trade unions, professional associations, government advisors or health or welfare advisors.
Well, it's so expensive to turn to the law, it's hardly surprising a lot of people don't do it.
Yeah, so we have legal aid for people at one end of the spectrum. People at the other end are able to afford whatever it is they want to purchase. But there's an extraordinary amount of people in the middle who don't have access to a lawyer. Or don't have, well, let's put it a different way, don't have access to proper advice to deal with their legal issues, whatever that might be.
No. All right, what else?
There's New South Wales is the first state to sign up to the National Redress System. They introduced legislation this week. And the National Redress System is to deal with making institutions responsible for the consequences of sexual abuse of children in their care. And the last one is that Philip Ruddock's report, and he was asked to report on whether Australian law adequately provided for religious freedom. His report was tabled on Friday, and the website's closed down. So we don't get to see the report. It's been delivered to the Prime Minister and Cabinet, and then we wait to see what might come from it.
Never commission a report into a matter that you haven't already decided what you want it to achieve. A New South Wales magistrate has found that Adelaide Catholic Archbishop Philip Wilson failed to report abuse by priest Jim Fletcher. He's therefore the most senior clergyman, I think, in the world to be convicted of concealing sexual abuse, which is an offence in some parts of the world, but not everywhere. But this is the first time these laws have been used, and it's resulted in a guilty decision. Whether or not there are further proceedings, we'll wait and see, and what sentence is imposed, we'll wait and see. But that's just come through as well. So we will see. To today's callers, anything else?
No, that's it, John. Yep.
The internal shenanigans at the Law Institute, by the way, continues. So the president...
Glad I came. Yep.
The president has been appointed as the acting CEO after the CEO was...
left last Monday.
Left very suddenly last Monday by mutual agreement after what I'm told was a lengthy process of internal review, mediation, performance appraisals and the like. She did a lot, Nerida Wallace, while she was there. She did a lot of good things, but she didn't have the support of her council in the end, so she's gone. Turmoil at the Law Institute.
Yes.
1300 222 774. And Chris in Melbourne, good morning to you. You're through to David Whiting.
Good morning. I have a question about building regulations. We have a development going on our boundary with a large window looking straight into our toilet.
Yes.
I spoke to the council and I was told that toilet is not defined as a habitable space.
Yes.
Therefore, it's permissible to look, well, they didn't say that, but it's permissible to look into the people's toilet.
Yes.
I can't imagine that it could be possible that there is no guideline, at least, sort of prohibiting that sort of situation.
Well, there is a guideline, Chris, and what it does is restricts or prohibits overlooking into what are called habitable rooms.
Yes, but
so the decision, and there is no expectation that you will sleep or rest or use for recreation your toilet. It's a functional space. So that's the issue, and most people tend not to have big windows on their toilets.
Well, we have this specific situation. We have a light well which is completely enclosed, and the toilet and the showers are facing the light well.
Yes.
And the construction next door is taller than the wall which we have provided us with total privacy before.
Yes.
Now that the building next door is going to be two-story, and from the second-story window, it overlooks our toilet.
Do you have
understand.
Do you have frosted glass in the windows, Chris?
No, because I want to see my well. I want to see what's... I have artwork displayed there. I want to be able to see it.
Well, the law says a habitable room, and it provides privacy in habitable rooms, and the assumption is that, most people use obscured glass or louvers or something of that kind. I'm really very sorry, Chris. The building regulations have considered overlooking of toilets and decided it's not a habitable room.
Chris, you wouldn't have your bathroom open to the world, would you?
No, of course not. It's not open to the world. It's open to my private, secluded space.
But it's not secluded anymore because of what's happened next door, is the point.
Well, that's right. So therefore, it should the developer should take measure to prevent that looking into my toilet.
Is it up to the developers to take into account what's already next door?
Well, it is. It does take into account of whatever's next door, but in the terms of habitable rooms, not non-habitable rooms or spaces that are not habitable. So, for example, a passageway. So, no, there's the regulations take account of it, just not the way that Chris wants them to.
Sorry about that, Chris. That's David's advice. Corey in the city, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you very much, David and John, for taking my call.
Go ahead.
So I bought a brand new motorcycle on the 6th of March, and within 8 weeks of purchasing it, it had broken down 3 times, and the front wheel guard has snapped off. After the last time, I told the owner that I'd like a refund because it was...
So did you buy it privately or did you buy it from a dealer?
From a dealer.
Okay, yes.
From a store, brand new.
So you're the current owner, so you actually spoke to the seller?
Yes,
yes,
the dealer.
okay.
The owner of the dealership.
Yes.
And given that it's not of acceptable quality, and nor was the service taken with due care of skill to make sure that it was acceptable quality, and the times when they tried to fix it, I've asked for a refund. They have many times refused outright to give me a refund, which I believe to be in violation of the consumer right in Victoria.
Well, can I say the Australian consumer law doesn't define what a lemon is. Okay. So we have lots of discussions around Australia about what a lemon might be and how we would know whether we had a lemon product that entitled us to a refund. Okay. Your option is to go to VCAT and you say, this is a lemon, it's failed completely, I want my money back.
Are the failures to it, Corey, are they peripheral or fundamental? Does it still run? It's just something's not working on it?
It was fundamental. It was the alternator which controls the battery, so the bike simply broke down.
Right.
It can shut down completely.
Was that what happened again and again and again?
3 times.
The same thing?
Yes.
Why can't they fix it if they know what it is?
Well, the problem is that the last time they only found out it was the alternator, and they claimed to have fixed it. However, they also claimed to have sold me a working bike, and then 2 times before claimed to have fixed it. So I no longer trust that they have fixed it, whether they claim to have or not.
Well, isn't that then your problem, is they may well have fixed it, that the problem may have gone away? I mean, there was a report of someone who went to VCAT that he wanted to set aside his car contract because the GPS didn't adequately describe some of the places he was going.
Okay.
And what's the cost? What was the cost of the bike?
The cost of the bike was $4,390.
And what's the cost of an alternator?
I don't know the cost of the alternator, but it seems to be a quick fix. However, from the first time it broke down until the last time, it took almost a month.
Yep.
And since then, I've also incurred $521 of various fees from public transport to transporting the bike from where it broke down to the store.
Then you may well have a claim, Corey. You may. I would be going to VCAT. Your first argument would be that you don't want the bike anymore and they should take it back and refund your money. Mm-hmm. Your second argument is that they ought to pay you damages or they ought to compensate you for the additional costs you've gone to.
Alrighty, Corey. It sounds like it's a scooter. Is it for that much money? Not a motorbike.
It's a motorcycle. It's a 250 motorcycle, so it's not super powerful, but it is a motorcycle.
No, okay, it's very... I didn't know you could get new ones for so little. Good luck. That's David's advice. Off to VCAT for you.
Thank you very much.
And good luck. Laura in the city. Good morning to you, Laura. Thanks for holding on.
Good morning to you.
Laura.
Yes, I'm calling on behalf of my mother, who lives in country Victoria. And in March 2016, she... was going on a walk and fell into a Telstra pit. And she landed heavily on her shoulder, which had a pre-existing injury, but was generally under control. And that fall exacerbated the injury. And now we're trying to get the assistance. She has had physio and doctor's appointments and treatment, but she's considerably out of pocket, and she'll continue to need care, and we've written to Telstra and tried to work out what can be done, but we're not getting very far.
Laura, was there anything, have you spoken to the neighbours where the pit is?
It was on a nature strip and around a corner.
Okay, Laura, as a general proposition, compensation depends on fault. Right? Now, and that means that someone has done something or allowed something to happen that has caused a loss. So that the mere fact that your mother fell into a Telstra pit doesn't make Telstra automatically liable.
Well, it was cracked. It was damaged, the Telstra pit.
Right. And
so are they not maintaining their equipment properly?
I don't know. I mean, I would have thought that most pit covers would have been able to cope with several cracks. So I would be looking to see, I'd actually do a door knock and look at the people who live at or near the pit and try and find out whether there's any complaints been made to Telstra. Because Telstra has got an obligation to maintain its pit covers, right?
Yes.
But it doesn't go to the point of having someone look at every pit cover a couple of times a day to make sure that it's okay.
Oh, I get that. Yeah.
Right. So the issue then becomes how often do they check the pit? Do they inspect it once a month, once every 6 months? Is that adequate? Was there a complaint given to them in relation to the pit that would bring it to their attention that it's wonky? So that's where what you're trying to argue is that the Telstra failed to adequately prevent this kind of event happening. And you do that, or they do it, by inspections. So, for example, they inspect poles and things like that. So that's where I would go. Maybe look at a Freedom of Information application to find out what kind of inspections they've done on the pit. Knock on the door and see, has anybody complained? Has anybody fallen in the past? So what you're trying to do is get to the point where you're able to establish that Telstra knew of the difficulty, knew of the problem, and didn't do anything about it. And at
Laura,
that point, your case is significantly stronger.
How old's your mum, Laura?
70?
So she hasn't lost any income?
No.
Okay, which, David, means that the sort of law firms that like to take on these cases on a no-win, no-fee basis, and there's plenty of them around, they tend to lose interest when it's a small case because you've not lost income, you've just got pain and suffering.
Yes.
Yes.
And you've got I don't know what the loss of bodily function is as to whether it would amount to a lump sum. But there's the difficulty. So that, you're going to have to do a bit of this yourself, Laura.
Yes.
But it's talk to the neighbours. Anybody made a complaint? FOI request asking when was the last time they inspected this pit and what was its result at the time? Has anybody made a complaint about pits in that street? That kind of thing.
All right.
So if there was nothing like that and it's just a simple case of, well, your equipment, because I do know that I looked on the website and I can see now that you can report those. But my mother's 70. She's managed to work out iPads and phones and slowly to be able to communicate with family. And, she did actually, then have the foresight to take a photo of it. But she was on her way to the doctor anyway. But
Laura,
in terms of covering her expenses for physio and...
They all depend upon fault. Unless you can establish that the telephone company was at fault by failing to adequately maintain. Where we're at the moment is that we know, and based on what you've told us, that there was a fault in the pit, but we don't know whether it was ever brought to Telstra's attention and over what period of time, and that they failed to do anything about it.
All right. And good luck with that one. More calls in just a second. I've got about 30 text messages about bathrooms being overlooked by neighbours.
Yes.
The general consensus is that, well, if the neighbours are going to be offended by our caller sitting on the toilet, then they're going to pretty quickly frost their windows rather than him having to frost his. A fair few people saying that you can remember the case, I think it was a man in Bentley, Jim in Bentley, who, when the neighbours built something that was overlooking his house, adopted nudism as a hobby, and very quickly they started to put some screens up next door. And when you're talking about what's a habitable room, text messenger says, my husband spends more time habiting in the toilet than he ever does in the kitchen. So there's a question about what your definition is of a habitable room.
Point taken.
I wonder why people do send these texts anonymously. I don't understand that. Simon in Rowville, you're through to David. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, John and David. My wife runs a small business.
Very hard to hear you, Simon. It might be that your phone is going through some sort of conniptions. Well, keep going.
Right. She sells china, crockery, on eBay as one-off sales of individual plates, cups and what have you.
Yes.
Now, eBay are claiming that they own her customers, that it's illegitimate for her to communicate with her customers other than through eBay. It's illegitimate for her to provide offers to her customers outside of eBay. And if she does, she owes them the sales fee, whether they make the sale or not.
Yes.
They claim to own the email information. they're saying she can't include any information in the parcel.
That's all true.
And that's all legitimate.
Well, what happens is eBay offers a service, and it's not an advertising service, it's a sales facilitation service, and they only get paid in circumstances where there is a sale. Now, I know of people who get the introduction through eBay and then do the transaction outside eBay.
Oh, no. I don't have a problem. If we list an item on eBay, and I understand that some people play fast and loose.
Yes.
If we list an item on eBay, that's fine. They're more than entitled to their sales commission.
Yes.
That's part of the deal.
Yep.
But to me, this is a bit like I'm a stall holder at a general market, which is effectively what eBay is. It's a virtual market.
Yes.
But it's just like the Vic market. Now, if I'm a greengrocer at the Vic market, surely it's reasonable for me to say to a customer, look, I appear at other locations during the week. It's more convenient for you to come down there.
Simon, you are absolutely right, but it is a contractual arrangement that your wife has entered into with eBay.
Not negotiable.
That says these are the rules of trading on this site. Now, your option is to set up your own trading site that has no such controls. It doesn't prevent your wife trading. I mean, I was looking at a franchise agreement during the week that said when a franchise comes to an end, the client database goes to the franchisor.
Which is pretty
rotten. Which is the
and
same argument.
People are not happy with that, Simon. And
well,
the bottom line is these are not negotiable terms.
No, they're not.
Take it or
And
leave
therefore, one might argue that it's not a valid contract. But be that as it may, in the particular instance, a customer of my wife's approached her and said, do you have any other items in this similar crockery pattern?
Yes.
Quite independently of eBay. Nothing to do with eBay.
I'm sorry,
and
Simon.
they were never listed on eBay.
Simon, it's a different question, but the relationship was recorded through eBay, and your wife has made a commitment that if she enters into a contract with someone who came to her as a result of her eBay appearance, needs to make a payment. I'm not saying it's a great contract.
No, but
it is a contract that you weren't compelled to enter into.
It's the same with a lot of real estate transaction contracts. It's the same with, in fact, if you have a shop in a shopping centre, then the amount of disclosure you have to give to the landlord over what's going on in your business, including turnover and the like, is astonishing, David. People don't realise that's it's in the fine print.
Oh, absolutely. If you go to the wholesale outlets, if you have a look, everybody uses the same computer system because that way they collect data on every penny that goes through the till.
The landlord, the shopping centre owner, knows your turnover of your business and they can kick you out at any time and pretty much take it over for you. But there's nothing negotiable about these terms, Simon. It's like your car hire contract and so many other things. You take it or leave it. All righty?
Well, I'm not happy, but...
No, lots of people aren't, but that's the way this economy is turning out, which is where you decide whether you want to be part of it or not. William in the Docklands, good morning to you.
Thanks for the call. Friday a week ago, in very, very strong winds at the top of Port Phillip Bay, a 50-foot ocean-going yacht of mine broke its lines, crashed against the marina where it was berthed, and sank.
A 50-foot...
ferro cement yacht in strong winds crashed against the side of a privately owned marina.
In Docklands, Melbourne?
No, at Williamstown.
At Williamstown, okay.
At Williamstown. And the vessel sank.
Well, my first question, William, is what do your other lawyers say?
I haven't been to any other lawyers.
Okay.
Putative value of sunk yacht would be, William?
What was it worth when it was floating?
$130,000.
Okay.
Yep. The question is salvage. Who is going to make the cost of salvaging the vessel? And we're talking about an amount of $26,000 to raise
to pick it up.
Take it away.
Do you not have insurance, William?
Well, I don't know what my insurance says because it's on the boat amongst documents and lots of other personal.
Well, they'll tend to be able to provide you with a duplicate if you ask.
Well, I did. Did you mean the insurance company? They're in Spain. I'm having a bit of difficulty getting hold of them.
I hope they were cheap.
Where's the boat registered?
The boat's registered with Vic Roads here in lovely Melbourne, Victoria.
Right. Okay, and look, I mean, I don't mind you tapping into the talkback and asking David, but I might say I think I'd probably be investing in a bit of specialist advice from a nautical lawyer.
But I think of the previous call. Think of the discussion we had with Simon.
Yeah.
You will have a mooring agreement with the marina that you...
No, there's no mooring agreement.
Well, unless...
On what basis are you tied up there?
There was supposed to have been a mooring agreement, but one was never executed.
You mean there's not one in writing?
Well,
let me
put it
David,
differently,
let's clarify.
William.
There will be
Did
an
somebody
agreement.
give it to you? Did someone give it to you and you didn't give it back?
No.
Whether it's in writing or whether it's by implication or by standard terms or by conversation, there is an agreement of some sort. Otherwise, the yacht wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The yacht's there on the basis of me paying a mooring fee, a berthing fee.
I understand that, but there'll be a series of elements. Look, if your starting proposition was, I understand there was a storm as a result of which it sunk. The question will be, if you had secured it better or differently, had you acted appropriately in your mooring arrangements, the way you secured the boat, would the problem have still occurred? So it's not. I mean, every storm is an act of God.
Yep.
But you can.
But what about the duty, David? What about the duty of care of the marina operator?
Well, all he had was a lump of concrete that you pulled up against.
Oh, be a bit more respectful. It's a beautiful boat.
What was he supposed to do?
Was once.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, we can now look down on it. Yeah.
So William, I mean, the bottom line is you do have an agreement. You weren't paying the money because you just felt out of the kindness of your heart that you'd paid the money. You're paying the money because you've got some form of an agreement, whether it's reduced to writing or not's a separate issue, and you've got to find out what that agreement is.
And therein lies the problem. We're having real difficulty in determining what that agreement says.
Yep.
And so we have a...
Well, if it was my marina, William, I'd still say you was currently using the space. You're just a little bit lower than you were before.
Well, that's the second time you've done that.
Yes.
It's a bit disrespectful. I don't slag you off, but
you're welcome.
That's okay.
No one's getting a bit of schadenfreude here, William. But can I ask, why is it insured with a Spanish insurer?
Because there's real problems, with Australian insurance companies. With Australian insurance companies.
What's the problem? They charge more money?
No, and ferro-cement vessels.
What, they don't want to insure them?
They won't insure them, and you have to go offshore. And
well, you might find your insurance is not much use to you. I don't know, but either way, David, what do we do here? Given William's got a problem, he's got to find out what are the basis of his agreement with the marina, and he's got to find out what are the terms of his insurance contract as well. Yeah.
What is your solution, William?
My solution is that the marina operator, through his insurances, attend to the salvage of the vessel.
Well, I would, William. Hang
on, and then that insurance company pursue me for the money.
They might do that, but that would include suing you for the salvage cost.
Yeah. But if everybody's concerned to get the vessel raised and out of the private marina because it might be some sort of navigational threat, then they ought to take the bull by the horns and call on their insurance to meet the cost of the salvage, $26,000.
Well, they might choose to do that. They might just choose to leave it to you. Thank you, William.
All right, William, an exquisite dilemma, and I might say there's a few text messages along the line of Dean saying, $130,000 worth of yacht. You can hear me laughing all the way from Yarraville, and he's not alone with his comment there. William, good on you. Good luck with it, and apologies to those of you still waiting. But David will be back if you've got questions to do with maritime law. He will be back at the same time
next week.
Thank you very much. Our talkback lawyer, David Whiting.